Welcome back to Downloadable Content. We are SJ.
And Alex Herschel. Today, we really need to talk about Kingdom Hearts.
Let's get right into it.
Herschel.
Alex, how are you?
I'm so tired.
Yeah?
Yeah, I am really tired, but excited to be recording today. How are you doing?
Good. There's a lot of work happening at work, like the last couple weeks, but this week has been like, things have calmed down a bit, a lot more manageable, so
Nice.
I'm feeling a little bit relieved this week.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
As you can tell, we kind of have a thing happening here. I got a green screen from a friend of mine, and we're just gonna see if this works. So if I end up being able to edit something funky after we record, you will see that if you're watching the YouTube version. If not, you're just gonna see a weird green screen behind us, and we're just gonna be sitting a little bit closer together than usual.
Yeah.
So we missed you last time.
Mm-hmm.
It was a totally different experience. It just killed the whole vibe. The podcast might as well be dead if we weren't here today. So what did we miss in terms of your life and gaming progress?
Well, in life, a lot of changes at work have been going on. There are some transfers, and I won't get too much into the details here. But there's a whole bunch of change and not a whole lot of consistency or stability. So that's been interesting. And then we've got some things outside of work that are coming up that are a little bit stressful for me. Just some stuff within, like, outside of work responsibilities that need to get taken care of over the next week or so.
Yeah.
But because the semester recently ended, that means that I can actually, like, play video games again. You know, and have time to do that. So I finished Returnal, and it was incredible. We'll have to do a full review of it at some point because
100%. Yeah.
there's a lot of thoughts that I have. This is the game that, you know, I was like, I need a PS5 to play this because I need it. Every other game that I've played so far on my PlayStation, I could have played on a PlayStation 4, but not Returnal.
That's so interesting that of all the games that are on the PlayStation 5, Returnal is the one that made you buy the console. I mean, I've only heard good things. How many hours did it take you to finish?
20.
Roughly. 20, okay.
20.
Now for working people, 20 is that's a good amount of time. You know, no filler content, no nonsense, no nonsense. You just play through it and it's fun. You're done.
Right.
Yeah.
No. I had a really good time. Yeah, it's not for everyone. It's brutally difficult. It's a hard rogue-like game, so it is tough, but very rewarding at the same time, and very deceptive in a few ways. But we'll get more into that another time.
Deceptive.
Go ahead.
Sorry, you're not a roguelike guy, are you? Maybe you are? Oh, no, you are. I'm not.
Right. Since you're not, I definitely am.
Yeah.
No, I don't have a whole lot of experience with them. This is the first roguelike that I've completed. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
And because I finished Returnal, I also got to move on to my next game, which is Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which proceeded to kick me in the face for the first hour. I felt so good. I was like, man, I'm killing this thing.
Uh-huh.
And then pretty quickly after that, I got my teeth kicked in for about the next 2 to 3 hours while I
Did
was
you
trying to figure
encounter
out the combat.
the frog boss?
There it is. That's what I was going to
Dude,
talk about.
What was its name? Bago or something?
Bugdo, something like that.
Yeah.
So when I encountered Mr. Ogdobogdo, I had almost a full bar of experience to use a skill point on.
Oh no.
And he killed me. And I was like, okay, this is the first time I fought this guy. I'll figure out the pattern. And so I kept trying. And I would go in, I would hit him, get all that XP back. Mm-hmm. And then he'd kill me again.
So were you trying to beat him, or were you trying to just get your EXP back and run away?
So I wanted to beat him.
Okay. So just so you guys know, in Jedi Fallen Order, if you get killed, the enemy that killed you stores all of your EXP. Mm-hmm. So the next time you're revived, if you do any damage to that enemy, you get all of your EXP back, and then you can just run away. Or you can keep trying over and over. And if you don't do anything with that enemy after it takes your EXP, you just lose it.
Yeah. And I tried for a really long time to beat him and couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. It was really disappointing, actually. I was like, man, maybe I'm not cut out to play this game. And then eventually I was just like, okay, I'm just going to get the XP and I'm going to run.
Yeah.
So I did that. And then I went to Dathomir first.
Yeah.
And that first, right when you get there, there's that big troll-looking guy.
Yeah, just walking around.
Uh-huh. Yep. And he proceeded to kick my butt for about 30 minutes, until I eventually decided, okay, I'm gonna attack him and then I'm gonna run away.
Yeah.
And then I ran into the Knight Brothers, and it took me not nearly as long to get through that little section, but I was just, how every other Star Wars game, you just swing your lightsaber and you win?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't do that here. Uh-huh. And it was really frustrating for me at first, because I was like, I'm supposed to be a Jedi. I am supposed to be the best. And I wasn't. It was very hard.
Unrealistic in the sense that you have to hit them multiple times and whittle down their health bar, when it should just slice right through their limbs.
Well, my favorite is, like, not only that, like, it's not like they have, there's ways in the Star Wars universe to work around this, right? Just give everyone Beskar armor. But no, when you're fighting the Knight Brothers, they're shirtless.
I know.
There's nothing there. And I'm still not able to kill these guys. And then you have the Archer bros who are sniping you from all over the place.
So annoying. And they have their unblockable fast shots. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they do a crap ton of damage.
Yeah. And so eventually I got through it, and now I'm having a good time. I had to leave Dathomir because I couldn't progress, and so I went to the other place, and I'm partying around over there, having a good time. Yeah, I like it so far. I see why you enjoyed it so much.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not one of those games where I hate it.
Right.
Just because you liked it.
Which happens a lot.
Right.
Yeah. For full disclosure, anyone that has played Fallen Order, even if they're experienced with Souls-like games and stuff like that, they all struggle with Ogdo. And I did too. It took me I don't remember how long, but many tries to beat that guy. And the thing is, so if you don't know, Ogdo is this big frog-looking thing, and it's just really big, and it's clumsy looking, and its attack patterns are pretty predictable. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, it's still really hard because he just hits really hard. Mm-hmm. So if you miss out, if you miss 2 dodges, you're dead. Mm-hmm. You maybe get hit once. Yeah, so it's very, very unforgiving.
And I looked it up. I was like hard frog enemy beginning of Fallen Order.
Yeah.
And a whole bunch of memes came up, so I know I'm not the only one. This is a big thing.
And it's it's an optional boss, and you don't have to beat him. I think I think it's intended to be a kind of mini boss where, you encounter it at first and you're like, oh, this is like too hard. So like you level up and you become stronger and then you come back and defeat it. But a lot of people like us, we're like, no, it's right there. Like, I want to beat the guy because there's a chest behind him. But yeah, I'm excited to hear how things go because good times. Okay.
What about you? Any gaming updates?
Tales of Arise. I'm still playing that. And by the way, I'm playing that game like with the podcast in mind. So I've taken some clips of like, so I can have like different illustrative examples of combat and like how the dialogue goes and things. So be looking forward to that when I finish the game and when we do a full review. I got to this point where like, so really close to the beginning of the game, it becomes very clear that you have like these like 5 main objectives. You're supposed to collect like all 5 of these things, and once you've collected 5 of these things, the world is going to be better, all the problems are going to be solved, so your whole team is like working toward that. And then I got the 5th thing. I defeated the final boss. He was incredibly difficult. In fact, some of the boss fights are pretty hard to the point that I had to, and I hardly ever do this, I had to change the difficulty from normal to story mode. So there's like normal, story, and easy. So I'm not at easy, but I stepped down to story mode because, man, it was just really, really hard. Really good. Anyway, so I beat this boss, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, is this the end of the game? I'm kind of like excited to see where the story goes because there's a lot of things that have been like just totally not answered yet. And no, like, it is not over whatsoever. And I have no idea how far I actually am into the game. I'm not going to look it up because I kind of enjoy playing through blind. I could be at the halfway point. I could be 2/3, or maybe just the first quarter because it's a JRPG. You never know.
Right.
Yeah, so I got a pretty big curveball thrown at me, so I'm gonna keep pushing through that game. I've been enjoying it, so yeah. Did I say that I bought Fallout 4?
No.
So I bought that after getting peer pressured from a few different people. Grapebird being one of them, our beloved Twitch streamer. I bought it on sale, and I plan to play that maybe after Tales of Arise, but anyway, it's in the backlog.
I'm interested to see your perspectives on it.
Yeah, because I'm like, I love Skyrim, and this has like a bunch of customizable guns, so that sounds like a pretty cool concept. Right,
because people either love Fallout because it's like Skyrim, or they hate Fallout because it's like Skyrim, but not quite. Skyrim, yeah. So I'm excited to see which camp you fall into on that.
Very cool. Okay.
But we do not have a question of the week. Those have all been answered in episodes to this point. So go ahead and ask us some more if you want to hear some thoughts on those burning questions and desires of the heart that you all have.
Speaking of burning questions, I just want to say that my bird, our mascot for our podcast, chewed through the cable of our webcam, and so video is out. But right before this episode, I managed to fix it. I took the whole thing apart. I put the cables together. I did this whole thing. I just want to give a shout out to myself because I'm really happy about that. So anyway, we can move on to the main topic.
Yes. Today, as we mentioned earlier, we're going to talk about Kingdom Hearts because they are making a Kingdom Hearts movie, and I have a lot of thoughts.
So first of all, did they give any release time frame for this?
No.
Okay, they just said they're working on it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How do you want to start? What was like your first reaction seeing that?
It was mostly like an oh no thing. Because I know I'm gonna end up watching it, and I know that it's gonna end up being terrible, and it's gonna be so sad. Let's start with something, because you brought up a great point. When these types of things come up, me and SJ try to wait until the podcast to talk about it so that our conversation is nice and fresh and organic. But one thing that you brought up that I definitely agree with is, why are we doing a movie and not a TV series? Because there's a way where like your budgets for that can be pretty much the same. In fact, there are ways where you can actually make it a bit more cost effective to do it as a TV series instead of a movie. But go ahead and share a little bit about why you think that's a better move for this franchise specifically.
Yeah, that was my first impression that I had. I was like, why is this a movie and not a TV series? It's just because any of you that have played Kingdom Hearts know that it is the most complicated, unnecessarily confusing story. I mean, I don't think anybody is ever going to be able to tell you, hey, here's what's happening in Kingdom Hearts, here's what's happened so far. I have watched like the most concise YouTube videos I can find on, okay, here's what's happened in Kingdom Hearts, is like 30 minutes. And even then, they are like rushing through things and trying to explain things that are more high level without getting into the nitty gritty. And even then, at the end of the video, I'm like, wait, what?
Right.
So to cram that into one movie and still make you care about the characters, because you have to consider people that haven't played Kingdom Hearts, have it be a cohesive story from beginning to end, but still, because I will admit, like, part of Kingdom Hearts is, I think, draw for a lot of people is the confusing lore. Some people kind of love to just take a deep dive and strive to understand the complexity of it. So that is an inherent part of Kingdom Hearts that is a strength and a weakness. So I don't really know how you package that in a movie.
Sure. And I partly agree and partly disagree. If the problem with Kingdom Hearts story doesn't really come from Kingdom Hearts the game. It's all the sequels and side projects that came after it. Kingdom Hearts 1, in and of itself, can kind of be a contained story.
Actually, yeah, you're right.
And still, to try to squeeze a 20-hour game, maybe a little bit shorter than that, maybe 15 hours, depending on how good you are at it, because it's kind of janky and that causes some problems sometimes, especially in frickin' Wonderland. Hate that place. Like, you could condense it, but and so that's where I kind of disagree, is that's what, if you're just looking at that first game, you'll be okay. Problem is that's not what it's gonna be, right? Obviously, you're making this, and I mean, the first game ends, very open for a sequel, and obviously that the story's not over. And so when you consider that, you're gonna need all this time to build things up, it's setting yourself up to not be able to finish what you start, I think, when you format them as a movie series instead of a TV show. And my other major concern with the story is the dialogue. The only thing that really compares with Kingdom Hearts dialogue for the amount of cringe and awkwardness that you'll get sometimes is like the Star Wars prequels. Like, there isn't a whole lot that's as cringy as Kingdom Hearts. That's about the best comparison I can give you for those of you that haven't played Kingdom Hearts. Imagine Anakin Skywalker trying to flirt with Padme in episode 2 of Star Wars.
And he's talking about sand.
And that's pretty much what you're going to get for an entire movie.
There is a lot of that. Yeah. Well,
every time Sora says Riku's name, every single time, it is the weirdest, oddest thing.
I guess I have a little bit of a different perspective, because I've I think I've played through it with the English dub once, but every other time I've played through in Japanese.
Does it sound much better in Japanese?
In my opinion, yes.
That makes sense.
Sora especially. It just sounds better. And yeah, when they call each other's names, because they're meant to be names that are pronounced in Japanese, it just Riku. That's just an awkward name in general, I think. Anyway.
Yeah.
It's going to be English, right? Like, I think English is going to be the main language.
Yeah.
They just need to figure it out. And also, like, is Sora going to be... Are they going to be voiced by the same people? Because if it's not, it's going to feel really weird, right?
Right. The hard part with that, too, is the voice actors are 25 years older than when you made the first game. Like, their voices change enough just over the course of the series, but I don't know how they're going to be able to recapture that.
Well, I mean, if you think about their voices from Kingdom Hearts 3...
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Like, I think they could do it.
Sure.
So, I wonder, though, while you were talking, it just made me think.
Yeah.
Could they just be... What if they just made a movie based on Kingdom Hearts 1? Like, they just start there.
Again, I think you're pushing it a bit. Like, because you'd kind of get Destiny Islands, Traverse Town, and then you have to pick like one or two of those Disney worlds that you visit, and then like that culmination Hollow Bastion. You can't stop at all of them. Otherwise, you've got, or they'll do like a little training montage, and that'll feel a little different.
That is an inherent issue because, like, with Kingdom Hearts, you're going from world to world in every mainline game, but that formula works well for a video game because you're playing through all these different worlds. But for a movie, it would feel really, what's the word I'm looking for? Disconnected.
Right. And again, I think this is something where a TV show would have done really, really well. Because, like, think back to, like, first season of Mandalorian. Like, each episode is kind of its own self-contained story, and it doesn't feel disjointed. You don't see everything happening in between those episodes, right? Like, other stuff happens that you don't see.
Right.
But there's a way to format a TV show where it wouldn't feel quite as awkward. Yeah, so, like, honestly, doing it as a movie has really dug themselves into a little bit of a hole before they've even started, you know?
So, I wonder... So we know it's going to be a movie. So let's say if you were tasked with creating a Kingdom Hearts movie, you have to do it. It's going to be made. How would you approach it? Like, what would you do with that idea?
See, that's the hard part because, like, if you just look at, like, how narratives outside of gaming, more in a condensed format, like a movie or even a book, is structured, right? Like, there's a set path that pretty much every story follows. And so if you were to break that up into, like, the essential parts of the Kingdom Hearts story, you need a good 20 minutes minimum for Destiny Islands. You need another 10 to 15 for Traverse Town. And that's already, like, close to half of a movie, depending on how long you want to take it. With Kingdom Hearts being more geared towards children or teenagers, it's not going to be like a 3-hour epic, right? Like, they're going to try to keep this to 1.5 to 2 hours long, right? That's what I would think.
Yeah.
And so you've already used up so much runtime before you even, like, met up with the Disney characters,
right?
And then
the bad guys.
Skipping to the end with Hollow Bastion, you need 30 to 45 minutes for that, which means you're left with 30 minutes in the middle to fit all this other stuff that, in terms of the overarching story, there's not a whole lot of, like, world-specific things that, like, you don't need to go to Wonderland because this happens, or you don't need to go to Olympus because this happens. Like, those stories are self-contained enough that you can kind of pick and choose.
Right.
And as long as you include, what Sora learns about his friends in those worlds as you go through it. Like, you're not going to miss a lot of the overall narrative, but at the same time, there's not going to be as much time for some of that emotional change and payoff of like, oh, this is what's happening. That's bad.
Yeah.
So
there's just not enough time.
That's what it is for
Yeah.
me, is they're so limited on what they can include that I don't know how you do it without it either feeling like a rushed mess or going from context and exposition to conclusion without anything in between.
So would you just pick a couple of major popular worlds? Maybe one or two?
Yeah, I would probably pick, because I mean, if I remember the first game correctly, like, you have one or two worlds that open up to you at a time, right?
Yes.
And you kind of choose the order that you go to. So I would just choose like one from each of those and do it as quickly as possible. But again, it's going to feel odd that you show up to Wonderland and 10 minutes later you're in Agrabah or something, right?
I know. It's gonna make it really hard for the audience to like stay engaged and care about those worlds when you're hopping so much.
And like, honestly, they might have to skip those worlds out like entirely. Like, it might have to be something of characters from those worlds come to Traverse Town and are like, hey, do you know this guy? This is what he did. This is bad.
Yeah.
And they're like, Sora's all like, nah, I don't believe you. I'm gonna go find him. And then he goes to Hollow Bastion, and like, that's how you do it. And even then, like, that is probably how I would go about it.
So, do we know if there's like how much involvement is gonna be there from Square directly, Disney?
I don't know much of anything on that front.
Because I haven't seen any details on it.
I do know that Tetsuya Nomura is kind of tied up finishing the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy right now. Like, he doesn't have a whole lot of time to consult on a TV show based on his game and his story that he wrote.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much involvement there could be.
It just makes me wonder because, so like, Disney is obviously very protective of their intellectual property, and Kingdom Hearts' existence is really a miracle. But Kingdom Hearts makes sense because you can properly highlight each world. You can properly represent each Disney movie. So I don't know how you properly please Disney with the Kingdom Hearts video game structure in a movie format.
Yeah.
So I almost wonder if like one movie is going to only like I wonder if they're just not gonna have it be like the video game in terms of the story progression. Like, what if it's something completely different altogether, where I think they'll still start at Destiny Island. I don't think they'll start anywhere else. But maybe you just go to like one Disney World and then like a whole lot happens there. And then, maybe the conclusion can even take place at that Disney World, not necessarily Hollow Bastion. Or set it up for another movie maybe. But now that I'm talking out loud, I'm thinking that they're gonna want to, I don't think they want to end it on a cliffhanger. I think it's okay to open it for a potential another movie, kind of like the Sonic movie did, because if it doesn't do well, then they don't want some seemingly unfinished movie that doesn't have an ending to the story. But I just don't think it's plausible to have that video game structure in the movie.
Right.
So
I'd agree. And if they did that, I would be all for it.
But then it's like, which Disney World do you pick?
Right.
And then it's gonna be weird if it's just the one world. I don't know.
Right. And there's so little detail on it that it's really open for like a lot right now. And I just read that what it's believed to be is a live action CGI mix. And that's probably not the best decision.
Live action CGI mix?
Because I'm gonna mention why there are reasons to still be hopeful about this. Okay. Do you remember the opening to Kingdom Hearts 2? Do you remember the opening cinematic at all?
The opening and the closing.
Mm-hmm.
I very much remember.
So, if they just made a full-length movie in that art style,
like Advent Children,
like why would you not be excited about that?
It would look really good.
It looks so
Those cutscenes
good.
have aged so well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And this brings me into my second point for excitement is we're gonna get remastered Kingdom Hearts music. We're gonna end up getting like full
oh my gosh
symphonic
dude,
movements.
Utara Hikaru, please.
So, and we'll either get her to re-record or she'll just make a new song specifically for the movie, and every single one of her Kingdom Hearts songs is a certified
They are slappers.
banger. So,
okay, wait, but if it's a live action CGI mix, why would it be like the opening cutscene?
no, that's what. So, because it's so early, that's just what it's rumored to be. And if that's the case, then we have to be worried.
Right.
But if they decide to go with the more cinematic approach of what they've already developed, then that's something to be encouraged by, because it's going to look awesome. The combat will look good. It'll make sense. And if they just really pour their resources into, like, but it's one of those things where you know how would you watch an anime and you can kind of tell when there's a difference in budget put into the combat sequences between two shows?
Oh yeah.
Like if they were just to properly place their budget in those action scenes, I don't care about the rest of the movie. I really don't. You give me that battle theme
good
remaxed with a good looking combat system, and I can accept it for what it is. We know this is going to be a mess in one way or another.
Yeah.
So just make some part of it redeeming. Don't make every part of it bad. That's all we really need.
So, I just had an idea.
Okay, let's hear it.
What if the movie has absolutely nothing to do with retelling the story? And what if it's just like a side story to the world that already exists and is already established?
I would be in so much favor of that idea.
Right? Because you'll have a lot more creative freedom. You can package the story that you want to tell in a movie format. You can still have a beginning to an end, and the audience doesn't necessarily have to understand the entirety of the lore to understand the general story of what's happening within the movie. And then the fans that know the deep lore will probably recognize a whole bunch of Easter eggs and a bunch of hints and things. It's like, oh, that's what's really going on or whatever.
Right.
That's what I think it needs to be.
Right. And I'm going to share something. I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion. One thing that I don't love about media in general nowadays is the need to make sure that everyone can come into it, whether they have experience with something or not, and get the same level of enjoyment out of it. Because I think it really waters down your overall vision. A great example for me of this is the Dune movies. Have you seen Dune or Dune Part 2?
I haven't.
Okay.
I've heard they're good.
So these are probably like my favorite movies that have come out recently. Yeah. Like, I adore these movies to no end. Like, I saw Dune Part 2 in theaters twice in the first like month of it being out.
My gosh.
Like, I love that movie. And so I've read the first 2 Dune books, really enjoyed them, and my lovely wife has not. And she enjoyed the movies still, but she had a lot of questions. There's a lot of stuff that they don't just spell out for you. And so having that context adds to your experience. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I can see where you're coming from like a financial perspective, when you want everyone to be able to understand everything. But that ties your hand in so many ways that there are some things that you can convey without spelling out that doesn't ruin the experience for other people, or for people that have no context for it, but adds to the experience. Like there's a way to do it right.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that's what they need to do here. And I mean, Disney kind of did the same thing with the Percy Jackson series recently, right? Like, I read that first book years ago, but I've read it, and there's a lot of stuff in there that, like, I didn't really get or care for. But my wife, who loves Percy Jackson, like, ate up every bit of it. And so, like, there's a way for a show to be successful and garner enough audience to be considered a success without having to cater to the lowest denominator.
I think it's a range, right? It's like how much consideration for the general audience do you add? How much do you cater to the existing fan base?
Right.
Yeah. And I think Kingdom Hearts is one where you can leave certain things up for question. And
they've left things up for question in the games,
right,
all the time,
right.
So I totally agree. Keep going,
and have that be a part of why it's interesting. Don't make it frustrating. There's a way to do that, but yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah.
Right, and I think if they go into it with that idea of, we'll make the show for the fans, and hopefully this brings in new fans. That gives them more of a room to kind of go away from the video game story, because I mean, a lot of the stuff in the video games don't make sense, so you might as well just go craft your own story that doesn't have quite as many intricacies to start, and see if you want to expand more and more into what we already have. But
yeah, and then you could even build something off of the movie in a future video game iteration.
Right.
Yeah.
So it really depends on what Disney and whoever else is involved. I mean, there's got to be people from Square. It probably won't be the original creators, but there's got to be something. And if they have enough of that vision of, let's make what we want rather than let's make it so that anyone can pick this up, like there's potential for something pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
there you have it. I think we basically explained how this movie is to be successful. So if you are Square Enix listening, please deliver on this. We are... I can't say that I'm optimistic. I'm just not, but I want to be. And when I see this, it's going to be an obligatory watch. I'm going to have to watch it because I love Kingdom Hearts. And we'll just see. We
are also available for story consultation. We will charge a much discounted rate compared to other storytellers. So go ahead and reach out to us, because we'd love to be involved. So
that'd be great.
There you go, Disney. We're waiting for your call.
Speaking of discounted rates, we are grateful for our Patreon supporters. We have our...
That was a good plug. That was a nice one.
Yeah, thank you. We have our down-to-earth cockatiels, who are Joshua and Grandpappy and Tyler, and then we have our down-to-earth parakeets, who are Zaruma and Nicholas. Yep. Thank you, guys.
There you go.
See you next time.